Welcome back to my YouTube channel and thank you so much for joining us once again as we dive deep into another unbelievable and captivating story from the world of rare coins, a world where a single tiny piece of metal can unexpectedly transform into a life-changing treasure, and today we're exploring one of the most surprising and astonishing cases you will ever hear about, the story of the 2014 1-cent coin that reportedly reached an unbelievable value of $6 million due to extraordinary errors, minting anomalies, and highly improbable mistakes that turned an ordinary modern penny, a coin most people toss aside without a second thought, into a legendary rarity that collectors across the globe dream of discovering. So settle in and enjoy as we unfold the possibilities, the error types, the minting mysteries, and the astonishing factors that could elevate a simple 2014 cent into one of the most valuable modern coins ever known, because this story truly shows how a tiny mistake in the minting process can create monumental value, and how such coins slip unnoticed into circulation where everyday people might spend them without realizing the fortune they hold, making it even more thrilling for those who passionately examine their change in hopes of finding hidden treasures like this. Now the reason a 2014 1-cent coin could command such an incredible price begins with understanding how rare and unusual major minting errors can be in the modern era, especially after the implementation of advanced automated quality control systems designed to catch irregularities, meaning that for any significant error to escape into circulation today, it must be the product of an extremely unusual set of circumstances, often involving overlapping mechanical issues, unintended die behavior, planchet inconsistencies, timing irregularities, or even unique transitional mistakes where old and new equipment overlap in unexpected ways, all of which can create conditions for very special coins to emerge. When collectors speculate on how a 2014 penny could rise to $6 million in value, they usually describe a combination of extremely dramatic errors happening simultaneously, because while any single error can add value, it is the extremely rare stacking of multiple catastrophic minting mistakes that transforms a coin from desirable into legendary. And in the case of the hypothetical $6 million 2014 cent, enthusiasts imagine scenarios such as a double-struck coin where the second strike is wildly off-center, creating a dramatic misalignment that leaves parts of the design floating beyond the edges of the planchet, or a broad strike situation combined with a wrong planchet error where the coin was accidentally struck on a foreign planchet intended for another denomination or even another country's coinage, something that occasionally happened in earlier decades and, while far less common today, remains within the realm of possibilities when leftover planchets or machinery cross-usage errors occur in mint facilities. Another possibility that fuels fascination is the idea of a mule error, one of the rarest and most valuable mistake types in all of numismatics, where two dies that were never meant to be paired accidentally strike the same coin, producing a wildly incorrect design combination that instantly rockets the coin into historic rarity. Imagine, for example, a 2014 cent accidentally struck with a reverse meant for a different denomination or a special commemorative design that was mistakenly loaded into the machinery, an almost impossible scenario but one that has precedent in U.S. mint history, making collectors excited about even a hypothetical case. Equally compelling is the idea that the coin may exhibit a dramatic die cap error, where after being struck, the coin sticks to the upper die and continues being pressed onto other planchets, stretching and deforming the coin into a cup-like shape while imprinting ghosted reverse images on future coins. If a 2014 cent had such an error preserved in pristine condition, it could theoretically reach astronomical value simply because dramatic die caps are extremely rare from the modern era, particularly in the copper-plated zinc composition used for today's pennies, which more easily tear, meaning the survival of such a coin would be extraordinary. Yet another scenario involves a 2014 cent struck with a full blockage, where one coin becomes trapped between the dies and imprints its reverse image onto the obverse of the coin below, creating a mirror image negative impression that collectors find incredibly desirable, or the blockage could combine with partial rotations, clashed dies where dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly outlines of the opposite design, or even severe die deterioration that created bizarre and dramatic distortions across the surface. Some speculate about an extreme off-metal transitional error, imagining that during 2014 the Denver facility could have had leftover planchets from experiments, testing, or foreign contract minting, and a cent was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a completely different composition, such as a nickel alloy or steel planchet, such a mistake would immediately make the coin one of a kind, especially if confirmed by metallurgical analysis, and could easily create a frenzy of collector demand. Additionally, there's always the possibility of an improperly annealed planchet error, where the metal is overheated or unevenly heated during preparation, resulting in dramatic discolorations, streaking patterns, blackened surfaces, or unusual golden tones that give the coin a unique appearance, although minor versions of this error appear occasionally in circulation. An extreme and visually striking example from 2014, D in mint state condition could garner massive attention. What intensifies the mystery and allure is imagining that this $6 million coin is not just a simple error but a combination error, meaning multiple rare mistakes appear simultaneously on one coin, such as double strike with rotation, wrong planchet with off-center error, mule combination with broad strike, or brockage combined with severe die clash. When two or more major errors overlap, the coin becomes exponentially rarer and infinitely more desirable to collectors who value uniqueness above everything else. The speculative stories often also involve the coin surviving in immaculate or nearly flawless condition, perhaps discovered fresh from a bank roll, untouched by circulation, preserving all details of its extraordinary errors, because condition dramatically influences value, and a nearly perfect example of an extreme error coin becomes a market phenomenon attracting investors, collectors, museums, and even wealthy enthusiasts searching for trophy pieces that elevate their collections. For a modern penny like the 2014 D to reach a fictional $6 million value, it would require intense buzz within the numismatic community, possibly sparked by auction houses competing to offer the coin, analysts comparing it to other historic rarities, media coverage amplifying its uniqueness, and private buyers pushing the price upward due to the coin's one-of-a-kind status, all contributing to the mythos surrounding the piece. Collectors often imagine dramatic backstories for such treasures, such as a mint employee discovering the error and unknowingly releasing it, or a coin hiding unnoticed in a jar for years until someone finally examines it under proper lighting, realizing that the anomalies are unlike anything previously recorded from the 2014 D mintage. The Denver Mint that year produced billions of pennies, making the discovery of a unique major error even more astonishing, because rarity among massive production amplifies value. If one coin among billions exhibits multiple catastrophic mistakes, that coin instantly becomes historically significant. Enthusiasts analyzing a hypothetical $6 million 2014 D cent often emphasize how its value also derives from the emotional impact and thrill that such a coin creates for the hobby, inspiring collectors to check their change more carefully, motivating new hobbyists to join numismatics, and demonstrating how modern coins can still hold incredible surprises, even in an age of advanced technology and automated precision. And so the story of the 2014 D cent worth $6 million continues to fuel imagination, spark conversation, and entertain audiences who love learning how minting mysteries and extraordinary errors can elevate a tiny coin into a global sensation. As we explore the possibilities behind such legendary coins, the fascination only grows stronger, because these stories remind us that even the smallest object can hold unimaginable value when fate, machinery, and timing collide to produce a once-in-a-lifetime error that defies expectations and captivates the world. Next 2003 1 cent coin, the channel, and thank you so much for joining us again as we dive deep into another unbelievable and captivating journey through the world of rare and valuable coins, a world where even the smallest, most overlooked pieces of metal can suddenly become life-changing treasures, and today we are exploring one of the most astonishing and extraordinary possibilities that collectors dream about, the story of a 2003 1 cent coin that reportedly reached an unimaginable value of $6 million due to a series of extraordinary, highly improbable and fascinating minting errors that transformed an ordinary penny into a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic legend, and as we explore this story together, we will break down the types of errors that could give rise to such a value, the minting mysteries behind coins like this, the dramatic possibilities that collectors imagine, the overlapping mistakes that could make this coin so spectacularly unique, and the sheer shock that would surround such a discovery. So sit back and enjoy as we unfold the endless possibilities behind this incredible idea, because every detail in this story captures the excitement and thrill that fuels the passion of millions of coin enthusiasts worldwide who dream of finding something so extraordinary hidden within their everyday change. A story that shows how even modern coins from the early 2000s can contain mysteries, anomalies and surprises that defy expectations. When we imagine a 2003 1-cent coin achieving a value as extraordinary as $6 million, the first thing collectors consider is the severity and uniqueness of the minting errors that would need to be present, because while minor errors can add small boosts in value, a coin reaching multi-million-dollar status must exhibit errors of such magnitude, rarity and complexity that they stand apart from nearly everything else produced in modern minting history, and this would require not just a single error, but likely an unprecedented combination of dramatic, catastrophic and highly unusual mistakes occurring at the exact same moment during the minting process. The year 2003 was part of the zinc-based penny era, with copper-plated zinc planchets used for production, and although the mint had high-speed automated systems to prevent major mistakes, the possibility of extreme errors still existed when machinery malfunctioned, dies misaligned, planchets slipped, or unexpected mechanical interactions caused anomalies too rare to categorize. And when collectors imagine a $6 million penny from 2003, they visualize scenarios that involve elaborate combinations of double strikes, off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, mule pairings, die clashes, brockages and even experimental planchet strikes, each of which alone could bring value but together would form a coin unlike anything ever discovered. One of the first possibilities that collectors imagine is an extreme off-center double strike where the coin was struck once normally, then rotated or shifted dramatically before receiving a second strike far off the central axis, creating a wild, visually dramatic overlap of designs, and if this second strike occurred at a rotation of 90 degrees or even 180 degrees, the result would be visually stunning and extremely rare, because rotated double strikes with dramatic off-center alignment are incredibly uncommon in modern minting due to improved equipment, but if such an error survived in pristine condition, especially on a 2003 cent, it could generate tremendous attention and skyrocketing value. Another possibility is that the 2003 1-cent coin was mistakenly struck on a foreign or wrong denomination planchet, something that occasionally occurred in earlier decades when leftover planchets from foreign coinage contracts were accidentally fed into domestic minting machinery, and if a 2003 penny were struck on a planchet intended for a dime, nickel or even a steel or nickel-based foreign coin, it would not only have the wrong weight, wrong dimension and wrong metallic composition but also exhibit striking anomalies because the penny die designs would not fit properly on the smaller or differently shaped planchet, creating distortions, missing rims, incomplete details and misaligned impressions that collectors greatly value, and if this wrong planchet error combined with another major mistake like a rotated double strike or a brockage, the coin's rarity would increase exponentially. Many collectors also imagine the possibility of a mule error, which is one of the rarest categories of mint mistakes in existence, where the obverse and reverse dies paired together were never meant to be used on the same coin, producing a mismatched combination that instantly becomes historically important, and although mule errors are extremely rare, they have occurred in U.S. history before. And a 2003 cent mistakenly struck with the reverse of another denomination such as a dime or a commemorative reverse would be one of the most extraordinary discoveries of the modern era, especially if the error was crisp, well struck and preserved without much wear. Another dramatic possibility is a full brockage error where one planchet becomes stuck to a die and impresses a mirror image negative of its design onto the next coin, resulting in a coin with a ghostly, inverted image covering either the obverse or reverse, and if this brockage occurred in combination with an off-center strike or die clash, the resulting coin would be visually stunning and immensely valuable. Equally fascinating is the prospect of a die cap error, where after a coin is struck, it sticks to the upper die and continues to strike new planchets, gradually stretching, bending and deforming the stuck coin into a cup-shaped form while producing ghosted impressions on successive coins, and although die caps from the zinc penny era are fragile due to the thin copper plating, the survival of a perfectly preserved 2003 die cap would be extraordinary, and if such a coin had additional anomalies, such as improper planchet annealing, missing copper plating or extreme lamination errors, it could create a once-in-a-generation rarity capable of reaching astronomical prices. Another scenario collectors imagine is that the coin exhibits a dramatic multi-error combination, such as a wrong planchet error combined with a double strike and a rotated die, or a brockage combined with an off-center strike and a reverse clash impression, because combination errors multiply rarity exponentially, especially in modern mintage where such overlapping mistakes are almost impossible. There is also the possibility of a transitional metal error, where the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a different year's composition or an experimental planchet being tested at the mint, and if a 2003 cent were produced on a unique metallic composition unknown to collectors, the coin would instantly become historically important and extremely valuable, especially after metallurgical testing confirmed its unusual properties. Another highly desirable error type that could contribute to a $6 million valuation is an improperly annealed planchet error, where the planchet undergoes uneven heating, resulting in dramatic streaks, discoloration, blackened patches, golden tones or rainbow-like irregularities, and while minor versions of this error are common, an extreme, visually stunning example on a 2003 cent preserved in mint state condition could attract enormous attention. Additionally, if the 2003 cent exhibited copper plating blisters, missing plating segments, exposed zinc areas, or dramatic plating bubbles in combination with other major errors, the coin's uniqueness would increase significantly because plating errors from this era are typically minor, but severe versions are highly desirable. Collectors also speculate about the possibility of a coin struck using severely deteriorated or cracked dies, resulting in jagged raised lines, massive die breaks, or even retained cut errors where a portion of the die broke away, leaving a blob-like raised area, and if a 2003 cent had a massive cut combined with a double strike or off-center strike, it would be visually spectacular and extraordinarily rare. The idea of a $6 million 2003 penny also involves factors beyond the errors themselves, including market hype, collector competition, auction excitement, media coverage and the emotional appeal of discovering a modern-day treasure, because when a coin becomes the first or only known example of a dramatic error, demand can escalate rapidly as collectors and investors compete to own a piece of numismatic history. Condition would also play a critical role, because a gem-quality mint state example of an extreme multi-error 2003 cent would be infinitely more valuable than a circulated or damaged one, and if the coin was discovered fresh from a sealed roll or from an original mint packaged set, its crisp details would preserve the dramatic appearance of its errors in a way that collectors deeply value. Another factor contributing to the imagined $6 million price is the cultural and emotional impact of such a discovery, because the idea that a tiny 1-cent coin from 2003, something so ordinary, something people spend without thinking, could. Next 2017 P1 cent coin, to the channel, and thank you so much for joining us once again as we dive into another extraordinary and thrilling journey through the world of rare coins, a world where an ordinary-looking penny can suddenly become the key to life-changing wealth, and today we are exploring the incredible and mind-blowing story behind the 2017 P1 cent coin that collectors imagine reaching an unbelievable value of $4 million because of its extraordinary errors, dramatic minting mistakes, impossible combinations of anomalies and breathtakingly rare circumstances that would need to align perfectly for such a modern coin to become one of the most valuable pennies ever known, and as always we will dive into the fascinating possibilities, exploring how a humble 2017 P cent could transform from a simple everyday coin into a numismatic miracle, a once-in-a-generation treasure that captures international attention and shakes the entire coin-collecting community. So sit back and enjoy as we unfold this endlessly exciting story filled with minting mysteries, mechanical marvels, unexpected glitches, theoretical scenarios and the kinds of rare errors that ignite the imagination of collectors across the globe and inspire millions of people to check their pocket change with new curiosity. To begin imagining how a 2017 P penny could command a staggering $4 million value, we first need to understand the unique context behind the 2017 P pennies themselves, because 2017 was the first year in United States history when the Philadelphia Mint added a visible mint mark to the Lincoln cent as part of the Mint's 225th anniversary celebration, marking a one-year special event that makes the 2017 P penny historically distinct on its own, and whenever a coin is part of a special run, even routine errors can be more desirable. But in the case of imagining an ultra-rare $4 million example, the errors must be so extreme, so visually dramatic, so mechanically improbable and so layered in overlapping mistakes that the coin becomes a one-of-a-kind phenomenon. The first type of error collectors love to imagine is a bold, extreme, off-center double strike where the coin is struck once normally and then struck again after shifting drastically out of alignment, perhaps 60%, 80% or even more off-center, leaving the portrait of Lincoln floating far from its usual placement, partially falling off the planchet with a second ghosted image overlapping at an odd angle. And if this second strike were rotated by 90 or 180 degrees, the visual impact would be stunning, creating an instant masterpiece of minting chaos that collectors would compete aggressively to own. Adding to this, if the coin exhibited a full or partial blockage, where another coin becomes stuck and leaves a mirrored, negative impression on one side, the combination of a blockage with a dramatic double strike would transform the piece into a spectacular rarity almost never seen in modern pennies. Another possibility that collectors fantasize about is the coin being struck on the wrong planchet, a mistake where a penny die accidentally strikes a blank intended for a different denomination or even a foreign coin, and although this is very rare today due to advanced minting controls, it is still possible when leftover blanks from previous production runs or test strikes accidentally remain in the feeders. So a 2017 p-cent struck on a dime planchet, nickel planchet or foreign alloy would be instantly recognizable by its weight and its noticeably incorrect rim formation, and it would show design details missing around the edges because the penny dies would not fit the smaller or differently shaped planchet, creating a visually dramatic and highly desirable error. If this wrong planchet strike were also off-center or double-struck, the coin's uniqueness would increase exponentially. Another rare and highly dramatic type of error is a mule error, considered one of the rarest categories of mint mistakes, where the obverse die of one coin is paired with the reverse die of another denomination entirely, something that has happened only a few times in more than 2 centuries of U.S. mint history, and imagining a 2017 p-cent struck with the reverse of a dime or nickel, or even a special commemorative die, would create one of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered, easily capable of reaching multi-million-dollar value because mule errors instantly become legendary. Another possibility that excites collectors is a die cap error, where after a planchet is struck, it sticks to the upper die and forms a cup-shaped cap that continues striking new coins, stretching, bending and deforming the stuck coin into a dramatic curved shape with ghost-like impressions, and although zinc-based pennies like the 2017 p are structurally weaker and more likely to split or tear, the survival of a fully formed, high-grade, perfectly shaped die cap from 2017 would be extraordinarily valuable, especially if the cap shows layered impressions from multiple strikes. Equally fascinating is the thought of a severe die clash error, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly outlines of Lincoln's portrait on the reverse or the Lincoln Memorial Shield pattern appearing faintly on the obverse, and while minor die clashes exist, an extreme clash with deep, unmistakable lines combined with other errors such as rotation or off-center misalignment could elevate the coin's desirability dramatically. Another scenario is an improperly annealed planchet error, where the planchet is overheated or unevenly heated during the preparation stage, resulting in dramatic color variation, including blackened areas, gold patches, fiery red sections, rainbow streaks or mottled textures across the surface, and while annealing errors are somewhat common, an extreme, visually mesmerizing example in mint state condition could be highly sought after, especially if combined with a second major error like a double strike. Collectors also speculate about severe plating errors, since modern pennies are made from zinc cores coated with a very thin layer of copper, and plating defects such as missing copper layers, exposed zinc patches, large plating bubbles, peeling surfaces, or full missing plating areas can create dramatic and highly desirable anomalies. If a 2017 p penny displayed a completely missing copper layer on one side, or exhibited a two-tone appearance where plating adhered unevenly, or even showed copper only around the rims but exposed zinc across the center, the coin would be instantly interesting, but if this plating issue occurred together with a major strike error, the coin would become uniquely valuable. Other collectors theorize that a $4 million 2017 p-cent would need to show a combination of die deterioration, retained cuts, massive die breaks or dramatic cracks spanning across Lincoln's portrait or the Union Shield on the reverse, and while die cracks alone are not extremely valuable, a huge break forming a raised blob or a retained cut, combined with an off-center strike or a wrong planchet error, could create an unparalleled rarity. Many enthusiasts imagine that the coin might have been part of a testing sequence at the mint, struck on an experimental alloy or during a calibration procedure, and that such a planchet accidentally entered circulation, creating a transitional metal error where the composition differs from standard 2017 specifications. If metallurgical analysis showed the coin was struck on a unique alloy, whether steel, nickel-based, multi-layered or foreign, the coin would automatically become historically significant. Another incredible possibility involves multi-error stacking, where three or more dramatic mistakes appear simultaneously on the same coin, something like a 2017 penny struck off-center on a dime planchet with a brockage on one side and a rotated double strike on the other, or a mule pairing combined with annealing discoloration and a massive die break. Combinations so improbable that they practically rewrite the history of minting errors, and such a coin would be the definition of a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Another factor that contributes to imagining this coin reaching $4 million is condition, because a pristine, high-grade error coin, one that escaped the mint and went straight into a roll, never circulating, never being scratched or damaged, would attract massive attention, especially from collectors who value not only rarity but also preservation. Many of the world's most valuable error coins remain in gem condition, which amplifies their price exponentially. Furthermore, the hypothetical discovery of such a coin would create a media frenzy, causing major auction houses to compete for the opportunity to sell it, with collectors, investors and museums bidding aggressively, pushing the price higher and higher as each party fights to own a piece of numismatic history. The cultural impact of such a discovery cannot be overstated, because the 2017 penny already has historical significance as the first penny ever struck with a P mint mark, making it an iconic year in the history. Next, 1998 1 cent coin, the channel, and thank you so much for joining us once again as we explore another thrilling, unbelievable and absolutely captivating story from the world of rare coins, a world where even the smallest and most ordinary-looking cent can become a jaw-dropping treasure worth life-changing money. And today we are diving into one of the most extraordinary and fascinating cases ever imagined, the story of a 1998 1 cent coin that collectors speculate could reach a staggering $3 million because of its extremely rare, mechanically astonishing and visually dramatic minting errors, mistakes and anomalies that would need to align in a way so improbable, so complex and so spectacular that this humble little penny becomes one of the most desirable modern-era rarities in the entire numismatic universe. So sit back and enjoy as we unpack every possibility, every type of error, every unusual minting event and every overlapping mechanical failure that collectively paint a picture of how a 1998 penny could transform from a simple copper-plated zinc coin into a multimillion-dollar masterpiece, a numismatic miracle that inspires collectors, excites professionals, challenges mint historians and ignites the imagination of everyone who loves the thrill of discovering hidden treasures in everyday change. To understand how a 1998 penny could reach an astronomical value like $3 million, we need to explore the dramatic, high-impact and incredibly rare errors that would need to be present on the coin, because simple or ordinary errors would never produce this kind of value. Instead, we are imagining the most extreme multi-layered combinations of catastrophic minting mistakes. The kind of errors that almost never escape the mint, the kind of errors that require timing, mechanical malfunction, die misalignment, planchet flaws, feeder issues, pressure irregularities, die switching mistakes and sheer accidental luck all happening at once in the Denver Mint during 1998, a year known for massive production numbers and reliable automated systems, which makes the idea of a huge error slipping out even more astonishing and therefore even more desirable to collectors. One of the first possibilities collectors love to imagine is an extreme off-center double strike, where the coin is struck once normally and then somehow shifts dramatically before receiving a second strike that is wildly off-center, perhaps 60%, 70% or even more, causing Lincoln's portrait to appear at the far edge of the planchet while a ghosted, overlapping image appears in a rotated position. And if this second strike were rotated by 90 or even 180 degrees, the visual impact would be breathtaking, because rotated double strikes with extreme off-centering are incredibly rare in modern pennies due to highly accurate positioning systems, and a pristine example of such an error from 1998 would already be worth a fortune, but if this error combined with other major anomalies, then the coin could reach the multimillion-dollar level. Another highly desirable and incredibly rare category of mistakes is wrong planchet errors, where a 1998 D penny die strikes a planchet intended for another denomination or even another country's coinage, and although the Denver Mint had strong quality controls, leftover planchets from foreign coin contracts or misfed blanks from other machinery could theoretically produce a penny struck on a dime planchet, nickel planchet, steel planchet, or a foreign alloy, creating a coin with incorrect weight, incorrect thickness, incorrect diameter, and unusual color, and such a mistake would instantly make the coin valuable, but if combined with a double strike or off-center strike or brockage, the uniqueness would skyrocket. Collectors also imagine the possibility of a mule error, which is one of the rarest and most spectacular minting mistakes possible, where an obverse die and reverse die that do not belong together are accidentally paired, producing a coin that displays mismatched designs. And although the U.S. Mint has produced only a handful of mule errors in its entire history, the idea of a 1998 D cent struck with the reverse of a dime or a commemorative die would create a legendary rarity, instantly generating excitement from collectors worldwide, because mule errors become instant icons. Another dramatic possibility involves a full brockage error, where a previously struck coin becomes stuck to the die and imprints its mirror image negative design onto the next coin, creating a ghost-like, inverted impression on one side, and while minor brockages exist, a full, deep, perfectly centered brockage combined with another major error like a double strike would be extraordinary. There is also the possibility of a die cap error, a spectacular mistake where after being struck, a coin sticks to the upper die, forming a cup-shaped cap that continues striking new planchets, stretching and deforming the stuck coin into a dramatic three-dimensional shape with layered ghost impressions, and while zinc-based cents like the 1998 D are fragile, making perfect die caps rare, a surviving, pristine example with other errors present would be a historic find. Another fascinating possibility is a severe die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving phantom outlines of Lincoln's portrait on the reverse or the Lincoln Memorial design appearing faintly on the obverse, and dramatic die clashes can create visually stunning anomalies that collectors love, especially if the clash marks are bold, deep, and perfectly aligned. But when combined with other major strike anomalies, the value multiplies exponentially. Collectors also consider the possibility of an improperly annealed planchet error, where the planchet undergoes uneven heating, creating striking discoloration, including dark patches, golden streaks, reddish areas, cloudy surfaces or rainbow patterns, and although minor annealing errors are not extremely valuable, extreme, vibrant examples in pristine condition can be highly desirable, especially when combined with other mechanical mistakes. The plating process used for copper-plated zinc pennies like those from 1998 also opens the door to dramatic plating errors, such as large copper blisters, peeling copper layers exposing zinc underneath, fully missing plating on one side, partially missing plating on specific sections, or copper-only rim errors where the center of the coin is silver-colored zinc but the rim remains copper. And while plating errors alone do not reach multi-million-dollar prices, if the error is extreme and combined with off-center strikes, brockages or wrong planchet mistakes, then the uniqueness becomes extraordinary. Another important error category that collectors imagine involves die deterioration, die breaks, die cracks and especially retained cut errors, where part of the die face breaks away, leaving a large raised blob of metal around the rim or across the design. While minor die cracks are common, massive die breaks are rare, and if a 1998 D penny exhibited a huge retained cut combined with off-center errors or double strikes, the coin would be visually dramatic and incredibly collectible. Some enthusiasts speculate about the possibility of a transitional metal error, where a 1998 D penny was struck on an experimental planchet or leftover blank from another year, creating a composition that does not match standard specifications, and if metallurgical testing confirmed an unusual alloy, such a coin could instantly become historically important. There is also the thrilling possibility of multi-error stacking, where several catastrophic errors occur on the same coin, and this is where the idea of a $3 million value becomes realistic, because while a single major error can be worth thousands, combinations of multiple rare errors can produce coins so unique that nothing else like them exists, and uniqueness is what creates historic prices. Imagine, for example, a 1998 D penny that is struck on a dime planchet, missing copper plating on one side, double-struck off-center with a brockage on the reverse, all while exhibiting a massive die crack across Lincoln's portrait, or imagine a mule error combined with an annealing discoloration and a rotated die strike. Or imagine an off-center strike on a foreign planchet that somehow also exhibits a deep die clash and a partial brockage. Any of these combinations would produce a coin unlike any other known to exist, and collectors would bid aggressively because the rarity would be undeniable. Condition plays a massive role as well, because for a 1998 D-era penny to be worth $3 million, it would need to be in pristine, mint state condition, perhaps discovered in a sealed bank roll or mint set, untouched by circulation, preserving all the dramatic features of the errors with full detail, which would make the coin not only rare but stunningly well preserved. Auction dynamics also influence value, because when a coin is declared unique, historically important, visually dramatic and mechanically impossible to replicate, major auction houses compete to offer the coin, collectors compete to bid on it, investors fight for ownership. Last 2015 1-cent coin, the channel, and thank you for joining me once again as we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, unbelievable minting anomalies and those hidden treasures that might be sitting unnoticed in your pocket change, and today we are going to explore one of the most surprising stories in the entire field of numismatics. A story that connects an ordinary-looking modern penny with a jaw-dropping multimillion-dollar value, because the 2015 1-cent coin, a coin struck in massive quantities and circulated widely across the United States, has in extremely rare cases been associated with error types so dramatic, so unusual, and so technically fascinating that certain unique or near-unique specimens have been valued in the realm of $2 million or more by collectors who deeply understand what makes an error extraordinary. So settle in as we unravel the layers of minting mistakes, production challenges, mechanical anomalies, misalignment possibilities, die deterioration, planchet irregularities and hybrid error combinations that can elevate an everyday 2015 cent into an astonishing multimillion-dollar rarity, and to do that we begin by understanding the environment in which the 2015 cents were produced, a year that saw the continued use of copper-plated zinc planchets, precision high-speed striking systems and large-scale automated quality control, yet even with modern equipment the pressures of mass production can occasionally produce conditions ripe for extremely rare errors, and while most mistakes are caught early, a handful can escape the mint undetected, traveling into circulation until a sharp-eyed collector discovers something that should never have existed, and this is exactly why the 2015 penny has gained notoriety among advanced collectors. Because although the majority of error types from this year are minor or moderately collectible, there are whispers of ultra-rare combinations that include double denomination strikes, off-metal planchets, dramatic off-center strikes with full dates, die cap formations, brockages with clear impressions, and even mule-style die pairings caused by mismatched working dies. So when we talk about a 2015 cent reaching or surpassing the $2 million valuation, we are talking about an absolutely extreme example of minting chaos. The kind of event that practically rewrites what collectors think is possible from the mint's production lines, and to appreciate how such value arises we need to break down the possible error categories that can contribute to such astronomical worth, starting with one of the most legendary and least common, the off-metal strike, which occurs when a coin is struck on a planchet meant for a completely different denomination, and in the case of the 2015 cent, imagine a scenario where a leftover dime, nickel or even a foreign coin planchet found its way into the cent striking chamber, and if the equipment struck that foreign planchet with full clarity, including visible date and mint mark, the resulting coin could be one of only a handful known, and rarity of that magnitude can easily bring values into the millions, especially if the error is crisp, bold and visually dramatic, giving collectors the kind of once-in-a-lifetime specimen they crave. And then consider another possible error type, a double denomination strike, where a coin already bearing the design of one denomination receives a second strike from a different denomination's dies, producing an impossible hybrid coin with overlapping designs, and if this happened in 2015 with a cent being struck over a dime or nickel, the overlapping images would create one of the most spectacular error coins ever seen, and one so rare that collectors would bid ferociously to obtain it. And now imagine combining this with other error traits like rotational misalignment or a 50 to 75% off-center strike, producing a coin that doesn't just break minting norms but completely defies them, and the potential value climbs even higher when we explore the possibility of dye-related errors, because the 2015 year saw heavy use of dyes that sometimes deteriorated prematurely due to extreme production pressure, and a severely cracked dye, or even more impressively, a shattered dye delivering a strike with massive raised veins across the design, can create a dramatic visual effect that collectors adore, but when that dye fragmentation happens simultaneously with a planchet flaw or misfeed, the result becomes far more spectacular, making the coin a unique piece of minting history worth extraordinary money. And then we consider the rare but incredibly valuable blockage errors, where a struck coin becomes jammed between the dies and impresses its reversed image onto the next blank planchet, producing a mirror-like full design on one side and a completely distorted or blank reverse on the other. And if a blockage occurred on a 2015 cent in combination with a second error like off-center alignment or unstruck copper plating irregularities, collectors would label the coin as one of the most significant modern mistakes ever found, again pushing valuations toward $2 million or beyond, especially when the error is full date and full mint mark, because the presence of a date elevates the historical confidence in the piece and boosts collector demand exponentially. And speaking of planchet irregularities, there is a category of mistakes that arise before the coin is even struck: plating bubbles, lamination peels, exposed zinc cores, improperly annealed metal, clipped planchets, and even the incredibly rare transitional planchet mix-ups. And if a 2015 cent were mistakenly struck on a leftover bronze planchet or an experimental alloy piece accidentally left in the production line, such a coin would become a treasure of enormous value, because transitional metals represent some of the most cherished and high-value errors in all of numismatics. And then we must talk about off-center strikes, which occur when the planchet fails to seat correctly under the dies, producing partial images that range from mild to extremely dramatic. And while moderate off-centers are relatively common, extreme off-centers of 60% or more while retaining a complete date and mint mark are notably rare and heavily pursued by collectors. So if a 2015 cent displayed an extreme off-center position with perfectly visible date and mint mark, that alone could push the coin into 5-figure or 6-figure territory. But if that off-center strike occurred in combination with an off-metal planchet, blockage, or double denomination, we are now entering the multimillion-dollar spectrum reserved for error coins of legendary status. And then we reach another fascinating category: die caps, which form when a struck coin sticks to the die and continues striking subsequent planchets, causing the metal to stretch upward like a cup while printing distorted designs. And a 2015 cent die cap that survived long enough to reach full mushroom shape and still escape the mint would be an incredible rarity, especially if paired with a secondary error like misaligned dies or incomplete copper plating. And such a one-of-a-kind piece could easily draw bids in the millions, reflecting the intense global collector demand for extreme minting anomalies. And then there are minting feeder finger strikes, struck fragments, multi-strike errors, coins struck through cloth, struck through grease, struck through dropped letters and more, each adding layers of rarity and desirability. And if one coin combined several of these at once, it would be considered a numismatic miracle, an impossible object created by circumstances so unlikely that only a handful of such events may occur in an entire decade of production. And that is exactly why experts estimate that a 2015 penny displaying a perfect storm of such errors could command $2 million or more. Because collectors do not simply buy metal, they buy stories, they buy impossibility, they buy the thrill of owning a piece that represents a failure so unique that it becomes art, history, and mechanical mystery all in one. And as we continue exploring the value factors, we also consider provenance, the origin of the coin and its journey through the collector world. Because a dramatic error discovered early and authenticated by top-tier grading services can see its value skyrocket thanks to the added credibility. And if such a coin were featured in major auctions, documentaries or collector forums, its fame alone could elevate the price dramatically. And now we discuss another reason a 2015 cent could soar into multimillion-dollar territory: the rarity of modern extreme errors. Because while older coins saw frequent mistakes due to less precise equipment, modern mints operate with incredibly high standards, so the appearance of even one catastrophic error stands out as a monumental event, making collectors treat it as a once-in-a-generation opportunity. and that is why a hypothetical or even documented specimen of an ultra-rare 2015 penny error could command astonishing value, and if such a coin were discovered by an ordinary person in pocket change or an inherited jar of coins, that story alone would amplify the legend surrounding the piece, increasing